Howdy folks, I'm Rebecca Jolly, the Jolly Alchemist. Today we have here a neutrino forecast or a transit report for Sunday, the 19th of October, 2025. Oh my gosh, time is moving so fast. So, let's talk about this last line of the grouping around gate 32 duration. That's this continuity, staying stable through changes gate. And in the sixth line, of course, we've already basically finished the work of the hexagram, and the sixth line being has integrated that inside of themselves, but they're not actually looking at it. In this case, the 32 line 6 is looking into the next hexagram, which is 50, and 51 is the 50 line 1 is the immigrant, and then of course 42 line 6 is looking into 3 line 1 synthesis. I'll explain that a little more right here. Let me start it right off. So 32 line 6 is inner tranquility that calmly faces changes, but Ra makes a real point in describing this, that it's a very much or not energy with this line, because it can also really happen that in the face of changes, these beings, these 32 line 6s, they become frightened, they become depressed, they become suicidal, because they have a feeling of, okay, there's all these changes, but that 6 line being is interested in more than just the nature of the hexagram itself. They really want to know about all the circuitry. They want to know about what's more, why. I need a deeper reason than just this thing. In this case, materialism, right? Energy. Being able to control the money in tribal things and have material resources, have wealth. Yeah, but what for? What does it matter? He says this kind of a cute quote that he has on it is somewhere. Oh, yes, this is. Why bother? Nothing is stable. Nothing will last. I will kill myself. I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but it's kind of funny. It's just so like this strict and sort of rule bound way of looking at the situation. Oh, all is lost. My daughter actually carries this line in her conscious transit. Not transit, what am I saying? Chiron. And so looking back, I was always wondering why in this certain period of her life she got so depressed. And now I realize she was, trying to grow up. She was trying to move out into the world, and she was having trouble finding a job. And there was this feeling about her of, what does it matter anyway? Just blah. And now I realize, aha, she was caught in the midst of this 32 line 6 sort of angst and, the uncertainty. So she has the 32 line 6 in her Chiron, which in its elevated form would make it easy to face changes. But because in her case this is a Chiron form, what that means is she's going to have a tendency to live out that downside of it, which means she's going to have a tendency to be destabilized by changes and to not make those changes if she doesn't feel like there's a purpose or a reason or something larger guiding her behind it. And that's, of course, the energy that these people carrying this line anywhere in their charts are going to feel in some way or another. And it brings up a point that I just keep forgetting to make, which is that even though our Chiron activation is not actually technically part of the upper part, like it's not listed, it's not featured in this picture of the chart, but it's a very powerful and influential kind of a celestial body, and I think it's worthwhile to basically read our Chiron activations as an extra planetary activation and to see how that actually affects our lives. And of course, I do give Chiron readings, which Wow. When I started looking into chirons, I really started to get a lot of insight into my life. And of course, then I went and looked up everybody else's chirons that I knew. And it gives me a huge amount of like, oh, so that's why. It's like, not to say that we're broken, but it's always guiding us to a point where we're going to have a tendency to get stuck. We're going to have a tendency to really struggle with this one issue. And of course, it's an opportunity to conquer that issue. And of course, if we don't conquer that issue by the time we're reaching our early 50s, it's got an expiration date. That issue is coming off the shelf, and you are going to get to look at it again. As I learned to my own, not detriment, but definitely difficult energy. So anyway, Ra was talking about this, and it was kind of interesting. He said that in the early 1990s, there was a whole generation of people, and I haven't done the research to see exactly were they born with it in the 1990s, or were they born with it sometime earlier and then it came to fruition in the 1990s, like as if this was a Chiron energy at that time. But oh, you know what? That is what it is. I bet you that is what it is. I'll have to look into this. This is an interesting subject. But anyway, the result was that he was giving all of his initial readings in a time where he kept on running across this line activated like this in the detriment over and over again. Basically, he was saying we have a whole generation of people really succumbing to a heavy kind of depression and weight in them because they don't feel like things are stable for them. And if they're not entering into their processes in a way that honors the energy of their bodies, it's going to be very difficult for them to find their place and to be able to feel like it's going to be okay for them. They're going to be destabilized by changes. And unfortunately, we're in a whole period of destabilizing change time. So then that could get really difficult. So it's an interesting thing to look at and to take into account. I find that these kinds of things make it easier for me to give myself a break, to take it easy on myself. No, I wasn't being an asshole. I just didn't understand the true nature of what this of what the effect this gate had on my system when I was in certain situations. And I think that's also what's going on here. Our earth activation at the same time is 42 line 6. That is sharing, or Ra called it nurturing. The power to share the process of growth with others. So this is, of course, on the opposite side of the wheel of that 32. What we're seeing is this gate of maturation and endings, beginnings and endings in this cyclical learning cycle that's happening. So you're really like, you're coming around to the same place over and over again, but every time you learned a little more, you're a little higher and a little higher. And in this sixth line, the people who carry it, they can be open to sharing the process of growth. This is one of those energy gates. And always, and I hadn't thought about it this way exactly, actually, but Ross says that these energy gates that are coming off of the sacral center, and this is one, the energy to finish things up, the energy to reach maturity, that they're very powerful. And people looking at these people, they sense you have the power in you. This is a collective, abstract gate. So there's a sense among people that, hey, this is for sharing. You should be sharing this wisdom, sharing this knowledge, sharing this maturity. But in this sixth line, because it's at the top of the hexagram house, it's not really thinking about that. It's really looking into the next hexagram, which in this case is, of course, that third line of mutation and wanting to be change. Wanting to be bringing change, they're not really thinking about the sharing of the growth process. And so it's one of those things where Ross said it can or it can't. It can lead to growth. It can lead to sharing maturity, but it can also lead to kind of hoarding. Resources, materials, growth, maturity, learning, all these kinds of things. And since we are actually moving into a phase where the sixth line is going to be taking a lot more power than it has been in the past. And of course, we're already moving into that energy little by little. It's a difficult thing to see it in others and to want it and to see them not sharing it. It can cause aggression or really resentment in other people. They have this. Why aren't they giving it? Why aren't they sharing it? But of course, if we don't know that we're carrying this energy in us, we don't know how to handle it in a mature way, which is one of the benefits of understanding our design. It's being able to understand our roadmap and seeing, oh, okay, if I carry this energy, I'm meant to be sharing it, and I'm going to be getting along with other people around me and having much more of an impact on them if I will process my own growth, do my homework, and then share it with others. So that's our today's mission, to look at those issues. Our moon begins our people energies at 6, line 6. So 6 is the gate of interpersonal friction, mediation, all this sorts of stuff. To bring about peace is the 6th line. To end conflict with sensitivity and reason. And when the moon is done with 6, it will move into 46, this gate of serendipity, love of the body, being in the right time at the right place, being very lucky, being discovered. And then it will move into 18, focus on the broken. It's very interesting to me how it seems like a year thing. We have a much more of an emphasis on some gates than on others. For example, we've hardly ever talked about the 2 and the 14, this channel here. This is since I've started this, or even looking at it over the course of this whole entire year. But we've looked at this 18, focus on the broken, again and again and again, and also the 6 again and again, and also the crisis again and again, and also the nature of this innocent healing again and again. So I find that to be an interesting pattern that I've noticed over the longer range of studying these cycles. Yeah, then after 18, we move into 48. Another one of these ones that we're just talking about again and again, the depth and the well, and how we access that depth to give us wisdom in order to be able to establish patterns to move into the future. Which reminds me, I had a really interesting quote, and I won't forget our people for today, from when I'm reading in his books. Sometimes there's not a whole lot of really condensed wisdom, but I thought this phrase here really carried it, where he says, and he's talking in this case about the 32, line 6. It's the ability to recognize what will work, what changes to accommodate, in order that the continuity of the material success of the tribe, and that's of course money and resources, and the tribe is us and ours, our family, our community, our little segment of society, larger than the individual, but smaller than the collective, which is everyone. The tribe can survive so that we need not be afraid of failure. That really sums up the 32, line 6, and really the 32nd gate in general. And of course, as it says, we will be moving in tomorrow to a new activation where we will be studying 50 and 3, the immigrant and synthesis. So anyway, that's the moon. And then, of course, we have our Mercury and our Mars running neck and neck in this subject of really looking in and exploring the nature of the first gate. And because we have looked at all the way through that, 5 and 6, we're still feeling the energy of 5 and 6. So I will read them to you again. 5, the 5th line, still has that up arrow on it. So that's attraction that results from the power of the ego to stay with and endure the creative process, and on into objectivity, objective assessment of creative value. All right, and then we will have Mercury moving into the next gate, which is 43. That's inspiration. 43, line 1 is patience, to provide depth and form to an insight. And then let's see. Of course, both of those will be moving, Mercury and Mars, into that 43, just slightly offset in the course of the day. So these two guys are really calibrating, coming really into close movement, and we'll see them moving together that way, because then, of course, both of these are going to start feeling 43 together. So instead of feeling that yang energy, that very outward, ooh, push to be creative, we're going to start feeling, ooh, I'm getting insights. Things are starting to come in. And also we have in our Venus energy 18 line 3 yesterday was fanatic zeal. We talked about correcting what you can. When you can correct something, you're so excited to finally do it that you get a little bit excited about that. And into 18 line 4, which is suffering, as there is no potential for correction. Of course, I think this has something to do with the fact that when you start to deal with other people, as you do in that fourth line theme, really being social, really looking to the nature of the other on the other side of the gate, and of course also being fixed. And I think that's what causes the suffering, because the one thing that you really, really want to correct, oh, that's the one thing you can't. And you just have to suffer with that. Of course, a non-judgmental kind of suffering, but it's difficult to hold that energy of wanting to make one specific correction and not being able to. But this leads into something I was talking about with some friends today, which is about in therapy or, guiding professions, it's not a good idea. It just doesn't work well to try to tell people what they have to do or what they should do, or to give them advice like that. You can set out the situation for them and help them to understand the underlying motivations, processes, situations, but it's for each person themselves to decide what it is they're going to do with their life and how they're going to move forward with what they're doing. So when you're dealing with the other in a fourth line way, the tendency is to want to say, oh, I can correct you. Oh, I can help you. Oh, I have information for you. But other people don't really want to get it that way. It doesn't work that way. And the 18, which is connected to the 58, Joyous Vitality, this whole channel, it's a projector channel. Needs to be invited. So there it is. I can definitely see the nature of that suffering. We do not have a global shift today, and we do not have any internal connections. So awesome. There's that. Let's look at those peeps that I have here, and our people that are carrying this energy of the cross of limitation, showing us the limits, the black lines, so that we can know how to color within them and achieve something that's beautiful in design by honoring the places where, yeah, this is not for you, this is not where you're supposed to be, so don't try to be there, and then you'll be all right. Isabel Briggs Myers, very interesting. Looking into the nature of sexual limitations, right? Zac Efron, Augusta Lumiere, Martina Navratilova, James Ratcliffe, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Neil Brennan, Benny Hill, and Bill Maher. Pronunciation is not my strong suit when it comes to names. But anyway, you have the names now. If you know anything about those people in specific, then you know that they are people who are here to help guide us and show us, hey, these are kind of the limits of this game here, and that's what's going to be going on. Interestingly enough, my partner is moving into this in his post-Chiron phase cycles. And he said, limitations? That doesn't sound fun. What am I doing there? But I actually already see him doing this in my life, especially when it comes to me and my weight gain. I'm a little bit chubby. I'm trying to look at it and address what are the underlying issues. How can I fix the underlying issues to actually address the thing? Because it's not about how much I eat. And he says, oh, there's a limitation here. It just has to be done this way. And And I'm like, is there a limitation though? So because I know this about him, I can take it more seriously when he's trying to tell me about the limitations from his perspective. He's trying to foster growth. I don't know that I will necessarily be accepting it from his perspective, but it's nice to have his perspective so that I can use that to inform my decisions and my own experimentations and my own process. So our song for today is Mad World by Gary Jules and Michael Andrews. And the reason that this song really stepped out to me as being something that was relevant, because the song itself has a feeling of inner tranquility. We're talking about, political changes and advances and times of struggle and difficulty, but he's looking at it from a real calm perspective and saying, yeah, these are the things that are going on. It's difficult. It can be bad. But if it's bad, don't be destabilized by it. Just recognize you need to flow with the changes. You need to be there. You need to be sensitive to the growth process of what's going on, and you can actually become more mature as a result of it. And I thought, yes, there it is. That's the feeling of what it is that I'm trying to look for. I think it's kind of a shame when people don't actually listen to the song. But it's just me. I find myself, my experience of the day and the energy of the day to be very much more rounded and almost, not to say spiritual, but it gives me energetic support to have this song running around in my mind when I'm thinking about this energy of the day. So, I recommend looking at that, but do you? I can't tell you what to do. All I can do is tell you the energies that are out there and give you an opportunity to look at them and grow from them and share the maturity. So there it is. Come back tomorrow. We will start looking at our next cross, dealing with values and mutative change. Until then, ciao.